Jason, you made it first. That's for sure. Nobody can argue with that. Not today, anyway. Oh, darn it. I screwed up. So I've got to add that. Okay. All right. Let's change this. We have a new number, but you know, it's all an approximation. Railtown, 17,158,000 shares, 309. 17,158,309 shares. Pretty amazing, you guys and girls. Pretty amazing. All right. Let me sign in. Okay. All right. Railtown 2534. It's in the green, but only slightly. ZYGL, you can no longer trade one share for one share of Railtown. It's probably you know, 3 shares of ZJYL for 2 shares of Railtown now. ZJYL is $13.99. MGRX is up 5 cents at 73.8. Next Trip is down 12 cents at 13.13. And Finger had earnings and is up 7.5 cents at 123.5. We can look into that. Maybe there's something in there that explains why it's up. My guess is, though, they are getting it up so they can sell it down or get a financing done. But who knows? You know, their strategies are complicated, and they don't do it out in the open so that you can have a sportscaster call the plays. I'm going to be having to go. I guess I didn't get out scot-free on my annual physical exam. So starting tomorrow and then 2 days next week, I have doctor's appointments. So I don't know what I'll do about tomorrow, because I may not be able to come on at all, or I'll just be late. And then next Wednesday and Thursday, I have doctor appointments too. So just to let you know, Monday is a holiday, I think. So next week, I'm going to be. Anyway, darn it, I didn't make it out scot-free. And everybody goes through it. We've all got it coming, kid. But one of the tomorrow's appointment scares me very much. Scares me to my bones. But what can you do? Railtown, 17,158,000 shares. I gave you the prices. Railtown's volume today is 79,000. Pretty widespread, a penny. So maybe this is the beginning of change. I believe, yeah, here it is. I can read this to you. I think this posting last night or yesterday afternoon by Corey Brandolini marks a significant turning point in the news flow for Railtown. Corey posted yesterday. I don't know what third means up there. Is that 3 days ago? Or he's the thoid. He might be the thoid. Anyway, Happy New Year. 2026 is setting up to be quite the transformative year. AI agents are gaining traction quickly across an array of business applications as the market for AI agents is expected to grow at a 45% compound annual growth rate over the next 5 years. That's pretty big. Compounding. I could do it in my head if I could do arithmetic in my head, but or math, I guess, in that case. That's a big ski slope there. AI agents will start or have already started disrupting the traditional software market as the software as a service market by automating tasks and replicating workflows. For example, just as an example, giving a question, hypothetically, quote, why use QuickBooks when my own agent can do it for me, unquote. Now I, Corey Brandolini, am not suggesting QuickBooks is going out of business anytime soon, but, or ever. But the point remains, agents are going to change everything. One can look at the recent trend of Constellation Software's market cap. Constellation has been a fantastic company built on a sound SaaS value model. In other words, they were rolling up, they were acquiring and consolidating, acquiring software as a service companies at a discount, combining them, consolidating them. That was a great model. But SaaS is going to be replaced or upgraded with whatever you want to call it, AI, AAS, or AAS, or just describe it as SDKs, software development kits, are going to be replaced by agentic development kits or AI software development kits or agent development kits, ADKs. Constellation Software has been a fantastic company. on a great model. But concerns of agent workflow capability, in other words, much better, versus traditional software as a service, seems to have had an effect I would say it should be effect, but who knows? On the many analysts' opinions, everyone can expect every application, mobile or web apps, to be updated with agentic functionality. You can expect every new startup to be built with AI function or built upon an agent development kit, ADK. So, with all of this said, I, Corey Brandolini, am excited to introduce you to what the heck we've been doing all this time. I know many people have been curious, and I am excited to disclose our new updated website, railtown.ai, is now live as of today. That's yesterday, which will introduce you to our end-to-end agent development platform, ADKs as a platform. Agent development platform built upon our 3 core technologies. Now, there's still the argument out there that somehow LangChain got a head start and Railtown has been bypassed. But I think, based on my conversations, and I'm not disparaging LangChain. They have a different strategy, a different model, a same sort of customer, but what I mean is a different technological model, same customer strategy maybe, and use maybe, but we'll see. But I only think they have one technology right now. Look, they've got a ton of money, and I bet they're going to have a ton more. So I bet they will catch up. But for the time being, I understand they have one ADK. They do not have Rail Engine or anything like Rail Engine. And of course, everything's rapidly evolving. And they do not have a contract, to me, as magnificent as the one that Railtown has with TELUS. But anyway, let's go. So the new railtown.ai website went live yesterday, and it's meant to introduce you to Railtown's agent development platform, showing off our 3 core technologies. RailTracks ADK. This is an agent development kit. Build the agent, so it allows users to build agents, developers to build agents. Rail Engine. This is real-time event-based ingestion engine. Baby, you can drive my car. Yes, you are a star. This is huge, and it took them 2.5 years, heavy lift, to get that built, tested, and ready to go. And I think this is going to separate, at least for the time being, Railtown from LangChain, and maybe from Google ADK, I don't know, or any of the other competitors. But I'll tell you what, I think Rail Engine is going to make the TELUS Sovereign AI Factory a success, because it is the interface that's going to make real-time decision-making work. But we'll see. Maybe I'm ascribing too much good to it. And then Conductor, which is an agent manager, it's the observability tool. And I believe LangChain has an observability tool, and they've nicknamed that Observe the Agent. All three technologies work independently, so you can pick one or two, or you can select all three and they'll work as one, as a complete end-to-end kit. Please dive in, but remember, still waters run deep, and there won't always be someone there to pull you out. So you better think it over. Check it out at railtown.ai. Stay tuned. More to come. Our roadmap is exciting. Go Canada, go. Go Greenland, go. Go Cuba, go. Go Venezuela, go. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if you saw, China is building up its military with the possible target of Taiwan and even Japan. The world is evolving into these, I don't know, these areas of power, starting with Russia, China, and the United States. And maybe it's no joke that for national security, for the benefit of Europe, benefit of North America, Greenland, I don't know. I don't want to say, I don't have the policy paper in front of me. So Jason Harbison is first. Yes, sir. And Jason says hello to everyone. Pete the Greek says Opa, Opa. Hi, Pete the Greek. Pat M. Good afternoon, William and all. Fast Eddie, good day, dollar bill. Cheers. Red Pepper Ronnie, hello. Pat, I hope you're okay. I don't know. All I know is when I called in to set up the appointment, it's a new doctor that I have to see. They said the doctor that I was referred to didn't have an opening until February 25th. And the, I guess, nurse or whoever I was talking to said, we have to get you in right away. We have to do it now. All right. So it's tomorrow with a different doctor. And it makes me quite anxious. But you gotta, it's like Clint Eastwood said, Will Money said, that kid came out, I shot him. I sure as heck shot him. Will. But he had it coming. I lied to you. I ain't ever killed a man before, but he had it coming. Take a drink of that whiskey. We've all got it coming, kid. Well, tomorrow is promised to no one. And I'm sure no matter how you lived your life, when you come down to the last ones, there aren't enough. So anyway, I'll try to, hopefully I'll be all right, Pat. I don't know the answer. I really don't know the answer. All I know is I'm scared. Last two trades seem to be buys. 1,000 at 25.34, 2,000 at 25.26. But it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. when all your love's in vain. Well, I followed her to the station. Suitcase in her hand. Oh, yes, I followed her to the station. All right, there's not much to tell you there. Apparently, Kyle Tucker is going to make his choice today. Let's see if he did, because it's his birthday on Saturday. Doesn't seem like he has. And I guess Trump is in Davos. I don't know if this is true, but the headline says New York City's renter czar desires to make all Americans live in social housing. Well, that'll certainly make everything nice and equivalent. So there's not a lot of news going on, which is good, I guess. We don't have to worry about war yet. Hopefully never. All right, let's keep going. Red Pepper, Ham mentioned you on his space call Tuesday. He mentioned how your position in a company got. Yeah, that company was Acres Biosciences. When I first raised money, I raised a bunch of money for it out of Thoroughfare, New Jersey. A great idea, great CEO, and we raised, I don't know, 2 different tranches, probably raised a total of I don't know, as much as $5 million, maybe 6. I know there's so many transactions, but we did it the hard way. I flew into Frankfurt, flew to the Middle East, met people around the United States, met people north of London. We did it one placement at a time. I was living in London then. And a great company. And it still exists. It started trading on the London, it's not the London Stock Exchange. It was the smaller one. I'm forgetting the name of the one in London. That's a smaller exchange. I remember driving around London on a hot August day, bloody hot. There's no air conditioning anywhere. My friend put his convertible top back, and we thought the chicks were all checking us out. They were probably looking at the car. But I got a phone call from Peel Hunt PLC. Hello, is that Mr. Ferrand? I said, yes. I just want to let you know we can make an offer on your shares. We can buy them all from you for 80,000 pounds. Pounds. And I thought, well, yeah, but they're trading at some much higher number. I forget what, 110 or something. So I said, let me think about it. And then I never called him back, which was idiotic. I should have just taken that. But that's the case when you believe the story. And I didn't know about the shorting that was going on. And it's a great story. They created the rapid tests kits. They started with alcohol, so you could others have it now, but you could just blow into this thing at the roadside or before you got in the car, and you'd know whether or not you should drive and throw it away. I mean, they were inexpensive, but the contract made a lot of money. But then you could test yourself. Back then, everyone was worried about AIDS. For some reason, nobody worries about sexual diseases anymore. But you could test right there, real time. Anyway, a bunch of different. They were developing ways of putting their system in aircraft so that as the air circulated, it was a very good company. And they got pretty sophisticated bankers and sophisticated board members and all that. But same crap now in retrospect. Every time there was a financing, a lot of stock, the selling down, all of that. So we we settled up. I remember there was a fight, a heated discussion in our office in London, and the CFO called. He was from KBO. I think it's KBO. People in the know. No, BDO. Use BDO. He's what do you call it? An officer at BDO. But this was his project. And he called us up and he said, well, we owe you, I forget what now, but it was probably 1.5 or 2 million warrants as compensation and some cash. We'll settle it for again, I can't remember, something like 400,000 shares, free to trade. And I didn't want to take it. I didn't think it was fair, but I got outvoted. And we either had 3 people to split it with or 2. Must have been 3. Must have been 3 people other than myself. Or it was a total of 3. I don't know. I think I got about 125,000 shares as my payout, I guess, for essentially it was 5 years, 6 years of my life working on that project. And at least I got shares. But then I think at one point, maybe to pay for an airline ticket or maybe when I bought my house, I don't remember, but I think I sold 5,000 shares or something like that. 10,000. And I got a little bit of money, which was probably all the money. It was all the money I ever got out. Should have sold the whole thing. But I kept dreaming that it was going to go back. Back then, the pound was essentially 2 to 1, 186. So 80,000 pounds, 85,000 pounds was like $175,000. I should have taken it. It's always clear in retrospect. But I figured, hey, if they're calling me out of the blue, the thing must be going up. It was a bad call on my part. But we were working on a lot of projects, and any one project didn't have to pay the bills. So anyway, he's exactly right. That was, 20 years ago. And then the shares, like I say, were at Peel Hunt. I think that's where it was, offshore. And I think they called me or changed their policies, as every brokerage firm did. and they just sent you the shares. They didn't want to hold things in safekeeping. So I got the shares delivered to me. That's when everything went electronic. And the company changed its name, it merged, it got a powerful CEO. Um, the founder, I remember, actually was talking to me one summer in DC, and my house didn't have air conditioning. He sent me, in return, I guess, for what all I had done, he said, why don't you go buy an air conditioner on me? And I bought the biggest air conditioner you've ever, I took 2 people to install it. And my house, I had to replace it at one point, but that kept my whole house cool. Well, the down, the lower 2 levels. But anyway, um, ultimately, my 110,000 shares, whatever was left over, got reverse split down to 1 share. He's absolutely right. I have it somewhere. They did reverse splits. The stock, last time I looked, the stock was trading at $4 or $5 a share. So it would take some mathematical skills beyond my own, but I would argue that the market cap and the company's revenues and all that have done perfectly well. Maybe not perfectly, but really well. But without all that destruction out of London and then in the US markets, I probably would have had a nice, maybe it wouldn't have been worth $500,000 or even $1 million, but at the end of the day, maybe I would have had still $100,000, $200,000 worth of stock. I have 1 share of stock. The last time I looked, worth $450, something like that. 1 share of stock. And it's all the reverse splits. It's all the reverse splits. And that's why lots of times I get frustrated when people tell me I don't, I'm just, like somebody said the other day, you're always talking about everything's the shorts. Well, I've been clear to you, I'm starting to think we need a different name, because their strategy isn't just shorting. It's this high frequency trading, and it's algorithmic. It's back and forth. And like the turtle says, Tony the turtle, he walks it down. They walk it down. So he sees it in AME. He doesn't see it in Railtown. You got to be suspicious of that, but you make up your own mind. But I also, when I was on Wall Street, I was a big producer, and I did a lot of trading, and I learned, whatever. I was, all the clubs, President's Club and all that. And I made it up. Back then, first vice president was the high. Now it's managing director. It's all just terminology. But I got to know the back office and what goes on. And I was wrong early in this whole iteration of my life. I assumed that compliance would buy in, fail to deliver. Why? They did it to me all the time, all the time. And it took a long time to be convinced, and I am now convinced they don't buy anything in. It's all changed. It's all changed. So, what Railtown's changing here. No, there's the 55,000, 80,000 for sale, 75,000 for sale. Oh my gosh, they couldn't get those shares off at 70 cents, and they're still trying to sell them down here at 25.61. Those are real professionals. No, they're just manipulating it. They're just manipulating it. But yeah, silver sky, red pepperoni. That's exactly what happened. My it might have been $105,000 share certificate, 115,000 share certificate. Now I'm a proud owner of one share. $4. I can't even plaster it all over my non-existent front parlor. It's just, and I think Ham's point might be, I don't know, but my point would be they're just relentless. You guys have a time frame, me too. I'm not better than anybody. We have a time frame of a day or 2 days or whatever swing trading is that we're going to swing. But these guys will continue punishing a CEO in a company with a good story. The revenues grew, the patents, the applications of the technology, they got worldwide contracts, and it just keeps getting destroyed. Hey, Steve, how are you? Giuseppe, buongiorno. Ward Richardson, good afternoon, William and RT crew. Another outage yesterday, this time with Verizon, a total estimated impact, $10 million. Yeah, Railtown can stop a lot of that, but it's probably in conjunction with other models too. It's AI, and Railtown's poised on the top of it. CJ Yukon, good afternoon. Giuseppe, I find it unusual that Rebecca did not post on X regarding Rail Engine. Rebecca is, and I'm not saying it with any negativity. I actually think she's smart. She's a woman, so she, again, and now I'm going to make a statement and everybody's going to be mad, but I don't think women join in the counterfeiting and collusion and promoting and all. I think she's honest. I think she's honest. And I think in general, women would not join in the campaign where you pump up a stock and you bring this in and then the shorts start and you bring it. I don't see her, or frankly, I've never heard of a woman doing it ever. So, but she is an IR person like a Frank Benedetto. I think Frank gets involved in the whole messy parts of it, but who knows? You want proof? I don't know. Hire a house detective. But her job, Giuseppe, I'm trying to remember the name of it, Midday Bell or whatever she calls it, but she also calls her company something else, very feminine, very nice name actually. I think it begins with a C, and I can't remember it, but it's a lovely, it's a good name. But I think her goal is to build up being IR for various companies and then build up her niche as a go-to interviewer and become a little bit of a repository of, if she knows what she's doing, she'll have a Rolodex of money and deals, and she can build a nice living for herself. But my point is, other than my basic point, I don't think she's involved in any of the chicanery or the counterfeiting or the illegal colluding. I don't think she does. She wouldn't touch that. I don't think she would do anything underhanded or in a gray area. That I've never met her, but that's my opinion of her. And so I don't think she's exclusively a Railtown employee. I think she's more of a consultant, and her business is growing. I mean, she has companies in the resource area. Canada is going to be a hotbed of wealth creation in the junior markets for gold, silver, oil and gas, uranium. It's going to be something ahead. And I want to show you guys, by the way, um, I love her model. I wish I had built that. And we can still do it. But if we have a format, a company, a platform, the one of the companies I've worked with, they've kind of made it where they want to make it. And I was speaking to the CEO about 6 weeks ago, and he said, "Look, we don't need any more money." That's what I asked him. But he said, how about if you're there for the next one we do? And I said, sign me up. So there's opportunity when you build contacts to maybe get in on a mezzanine level on decent or even better than average transactions. A lot of the stuff that's going to come at you by the charm boys or the promoters, I'm not picking on any one person, they're never going to make it. Most of the mining companies and most of the startup, they'll have all the buzzwords and you'll be fleeced. But if you build a network and you grow to trust it, there's deals to be made. And I think that's what she's doing. I do not think I don't think she's on the outs. I think she's well respected, but I don't think her main focus is Railtown. I don't think, but you'd have to ask her. Further, Giuseppe, I think that whatever we're calling it, if we're calling it a quiet period or a blackout or a pain in the ass, this prolonged squawk that started on February 8th and hasn't ended yet, I think Corey's probably chaffing against the restrictions. So I think he put it out on his own steam, and he probably didn't engage her for that, I'm guessing. But it'll begin, and I'm sure she'll have interviews, and I'm sure she's going to be a powerful part of telling the story going forward. Be my guess. Sleepy beaches. I almost mispronounced it. Basic Python code is used also. Just understand what you're buying. Well, I don't know what your point is. I do know a friend of mine told me Python is code, but I don't think I need to know every intricate detail of software development or coding, because that would probably take a good 8 to 12 years of my life, which I may not have. All I can do is judge markets and trends like that. So yeah, I understand. We just understand what you're buying is basic Python code. I don't know. Is Python code AI or is it just software? And how does AI interact with Python? I don't know. All I know is Railtown's tools can work with any software code, including your voice or something you write down, and they can process it and then unify it, spit it out on a common platform. So, a CFO can look on her iPad while she's having coffee, or a chairman of the board while she's at the airport lounge can go in. Everybody can communicate and come up with a solution, or answer to the question, whatever it is. So it's a powerful proposal that Railtown offers. And the thing is, I don't know Sleepy Beaches. I don't know what the hell a Python code is versus Fortran, or versus Morse code. I really don't. But it doesn't matter what I know. It doesn't matter what I know. You've got Corey Brandolini, who's been writing software since the 1980s. He and his team have been part of 6 companies developing software. They sold 5 of them. One of them they just got started too early. It was a Dropbox Forerunner, but they created it back before iPhones and apps were so widely accepted, and the resistance they ran into was that it wasn't a Microsoft product. So when you ask people to download it into their Windows on their PC, they hesitated. And so that one didn't really work. But the other 5 were successful, and one of them was purchased by Microsoft. So when Marwan and Corey met somewhere, probably on a ski slope or at a cocktail party, they said, "Hey, remember we worked together, and remember that problem when you'd have to shut down, it was all hands on deck, and you had to stop everything you were doing to make sure that the software wasn't going into catastrophic failure? What if we came up with a tool that could prevent that? What if we came up with a tool that could improve software? And then one of them said, well, while we're at it, why don't we create a self-learning tool, an artificial intelligence tool that allows developers to make the agentic agents, and let's get started early. You've got money, I've got money. Let's start the company." So they wrote up a white paper 6 years ago, and you can glean this from his interviews that he's given. But my paraphrasing, they called up Microsoft. They said, "Hey, dudes or girls, whoever they're talking to, whoever bought their previous company, do you know if Microsoft is doing this?" And the answer obviously came back, no. "And do you know if Microsoft intends to do it, or if anybody else is doing it?" Apparently the answer came back, no. And well, if we got intellectual property protections on this, and we drew up a business plan, what do you think? And it's pretty clear to me Microsoft helped the company early on, and they're in all 3 of Microsoft's partner channels. Microsoft rules the world in terms of software developer tools. I don't know about all. There's something like, I forget, I wrote it down. There's some 33. There's over 30 different software languages, and they're all gigantic. One is Python, I guess. I don't know them all, and I don't pretend to, but they do. That's my point. You're not buying my knowledge. You're not, by investing in Railtown, you're not investing in my knowledge of software. You're investing in them. And they spent 6 months writing up their white paper. They protected it all. I'm always skeptical of what patents really protect. But they did it all, and they developed it. And it's battle tested. They were going commercial, and they ran into these really powerful guys in the technology financing space, particularly in Canada, at AIP Partners. And AIP Partners, out of 170 companies, that John Ruffalo, Mike Norbrega, Dr. Tom Core, and the guy from IBM, I should look his name up. I can see his face. They started AIP Partnerships, and they selected companies, AI companies, to come in their network to imitate the roll-up strategy of Constellation Software with SaaS companies. But their idea, remember Ulmer's, where Mike Norbrega was the CEO and president, Ulmer's Ventures, which John Ruffalo, when he was at Ulmer's, founded, which was the Ontario Municipal Employee Retirement System's venture capital arm. They funded Constellation Software, $25 million. It was either under $1 a share or under $10 a share. That stock went to $5,000 a share. So they know the model, and they have credibility with the investors in that space. But the key thing they came up with, let's do it for AI. So when these guys met Railtown, they looked at their software, they looked at their technology, and unique among all 170 companies that joined the AIP network, John Ruffalo, Mike Norbrega, Dr. Tom Core, and the guy from IBM, they said, why don't you buy us? That's pretty good confirmation, whether or not basic Python code is used or not, that Railtown's technology passed somebody's pretty smart, passed their smell test. So I'll go with that. Donna M., good afternoon, William and everyone. Donna says, hello, Ward. I have Verizon. Could Railtown have cut down Verizon's downtime? Ward Richardson. Yes, Donna. The answer to your question is a big fat yes. Did you hear the news today? Oh boy. Did you hear the news yesterday on Rail Engine's release? Ward, Donna, Verizon had software and hardware issue in New Jersey. Donna, I listened to William late, and I heard him mention it at the end. I searched for the information, but I couldn't find anything. I just read it. We can read it again. Donna points out your own target, Ward, next week, January 22nd, maybe the Railtown information will become more available. Ward says, Donna, Verizon will give you $20 credit for 180,000 customers. Swell. Why didn't I think of that? Fingers up 5 cents, and it's 121. Donna corrected the date. Donna says, do we have to contact Verizon? Ward says, yes, all for 20 smackers. Thanks, Ward. You're welcome, Donna. Janka Milan, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon are competitors. Yeah, those all are. I don't know what happens in Canada, but he told me that the internet providers in Canada all have to be Canadian. I don't know about AT&T or T-Mobile. I don't know. But the interesting thing about Railtown's model, their technology, they're agnostic. And I'm going to show my ignorance. I don't know how the Railtown interface would interface with Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T. The thing that occurs to me is if they are using the data center in Rimouski, Quebec, that's how it would be. But regardless, however it is, if AT&T uses Railtown doesn't care. Doesn't mean T-Mobile couldn't use Railtown or Verizon or both. They are completely, as he put it, we're Switzerland. Although Switzerland isn't so neutral anymore. All right, let me see what else I had to show. I did have something to show, but what time is it? I think it's worth looking at, watching, but you've got to really adjust your mind for two things. If I can find it. One, you have to ignore the fact that for some oddball reason, this mesomorph, actually, I think he's more of an ectomorph, decided to not wear a shirt. But when you think about it, maybe he didn't have air conditioning because it was, I don't know. But then you also have to try to listen to a guy that's pretty smart, and it gives you, it's not very long. It's less than 10 minutes. But well, I'll let you find out what it is. Of course, you have to deal with smoking. Let's see if it'll start.
What I'm trying to do as a scientist is a very simple and clear-cut story. It begins back about 1917. I was then about 19 years old. I had been brought up with every expectation of going into the Christian ministry, which in my family means the Episcopal Church. I was soaked in theology.
This is Dr. Warren McCullough, an eminent neurologist, engineer, and mathematician. It was at his world-famous lab at MIT that the original work on the frog's eye took place.
And I got seduced by mathematics. Surely because there was more fun in it, and because if you know theology at all well, you'll realize that the ideas in the mind of God are mathematics and logic. So this is the way I came into the game in the first place. And I have never had but one question in the whole of my scientific life. I've only wanted to know, what is a number that a man may know it, and a man that he may know a number? I think I'm fairly clear as to the first half of it. But as the second half, a man that he may know a number, not yet. I've had to content myself with what a frog's eye tells a frog's brain, or something else of this sort. So roughly,
A frog's eye is very simple compared to a man's brain, an organ so complex that even the most optimistic believe that it will be centuries before we unravel all its mysteries. Yet, Dr. McCullough and his colleagues believe they are beginning to understand how the higher nervous system of a man's brain, might work as a machine. A machine basically different in principle from anything we can now build. Much more subtle than even our most sophisticated computers.
Now, may I make clear a distinction between your nervous system and any computing machine which is yet in existence? There are some beginning to approximate it. They are to be found chiefly in bombers and things of this sort. Now, in an ordinary machine, operations are carried out sequentially. And a mistake entails mistakes which follow inevitably from it all the way through the computation. As opposed to this, there are parallel machines. That is, machines which carry on the same computation in 1, 2, 3 or more channels. Compare the results and don't go ahead until the results agree. These are strictly parallel. I'm not talking about either of these kinds of machines. I'm talking about machines which resemble, let's say, the mouth of the Danube, or the mouth of the Nile, or better yet, the mouth of the Swanee River. These are what the Greeks called anastomotic affairs. That is, the water from each contributory stream is mixed with the water from every other contributory stream before they finally get out the mouths of the river. Is that clear? There is no other word that I know for it except the old Greek word anastomotic. They're not merely braided together where the braids follow through. No. They're braided with an intermixture so that the information coming out at any one point in the mouth is combined from the information coming in from all of the sources of that river. Is this clear? Good. What is more, well, any man my age knows this very well. The neurons die at the order of thousands of neurons per day. We're built to run well to the 16th year of age, roughly. From that time on, you begin to be able to count the holes where there were cells and there are no more. So, you have to design it so that a cell, while it's dying, it's apt to go pip, 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 and then quit. And after it's dead, it's not going to make too much difference. You would probably find at least 10% of the big cells in my cerebellum, where you could count them, are just holes filled up with glia, glue cells, supporting cells. So, this kind of thing happens all the time and must happen. And yet we can go on to, well, in my family, to 100.
And the theory that you're working on...
The theory that we're working on takes care of all of these things. That's the important point about it.
In the summer, Dr. McCullough, his wife, and grandchildren moved to a country home in New England. All that was missing in this peaceful spot was a lake. And 30 years ago, McCullough dammed up a stream to complete his Eden. What is man? A child of nature. But now, wondering whether he can ever learn enough to make something like himself in a laboratory. What is the limit of our possible knowledge and power? Will we one day in the distant future perhaps even create beings superior to ourselves? Beings who will survive us on this planet? Dr. McCullough thinks it possible.
No, I would expect that insofar as machines might survive man, they might. They would only carry on, in a sense, the same direction, same general direction, that man would have carried on if he could have. Am I clear? So to speak, the machines would be standing on our shoulders.
Somehow the purpose of it, that a machine, no matter how complicated and how clever, could have, to my mind, isn't equatable. When man has gone, these machines would in essence be purposeless.
I doubt that. I would say, in essence, they would be purposeful.
And there would be, in your feeling, nothing gone and nothing missing from the world.
Well, you mean in the sense in which the dinosaurs are missing?
No, I mean in the sense of something important.
Well, aren't they important? Weren't they important? I mean, there's one thing you can be pretty sure of: man won't survive forever. From all that we know of the sun and of other stars, that would be the most improbable thing. Something else will come.
And in your opinion, it might be something of man's own creation.
Yes.
Well, here's the problem that I'm trying to get at. Here's the thing that I'm trying to get at. You have two grandchildren right there. And I can't see that a machine will ever feel toward any of its
Why not?
creatures the way you feel about them. That's the one thing that I can't get.
Well, I think I could set it up for you, because I'm certain that if I do it, there is a mechanism that can do it. If I can manage to state that in a finite and unambiguous manner, then I think it can be done. And I see no reason why we can't develop a logical relation in time to come. Granted, it's defective at the present time. Don't shake the table.
Maybe we do need to have women take over the world. But anyway, what I thought was interesting, that guy is supposedly the inventor of neural nets. That's what it says. But anyway, it's interesting, I guess, a couple things. This has all been thought of for a long time. But to what they're trying to do with the large language models is that neural connection. And then the ADKs on top, the orchestration frameworks, I guess, would bring those neural connections together to thoughts like, I care about these grandchildren. Obviously, I'm going to guess that he doesn't believe in God, and that may change people's views of consciousness and the ability to the differences between human beings and machines. I personally don't think that computers are ever going to have consciousness or intelligence, but maybe they can come close. Anyway, Railtown remains up 0.003. ZJYL is down 3 cents, 13.5. MGRX down 68 cents. Next strip is down 15 cents to 310. Finger is up 5 cents at 121. Let's just see what Finger announced today. I'll go to Yahoo. They usually are pretty good at putting out the news. I mean, look at this. Finger Motion enters into a term sheet, this a month ago, for potential acquisition of voice and messaging service provider. You'd have to convince me that that's really a growth area. That's it. I don't know. To expand services and growth. Finger Motion announces strategic roadmap to drive regional expansion and shareholder value. Now there, 2 months ago, Finger Motion strengthens business development efforts for AI and big data solutions in Southeast Asia. I tend to think they have something that they can actually do and work with in that area. But everybody comes up, is going to have the same headlines. 2 months ago, Finger Motion losses deepen, stretching the valuation versus peers. Let's see who they say the peers are. Finger Motion, this is 2 months ago, remained unprofitable this period, with losses having deepened at an annual average rate of 5%. I guess that's the deepening. The company's price to sales ratio, or revenues, stands at 2.9x, running ahead of its peer average of 1.2x. And that's something I've said before in my somebody's calling me about my blood work. It can wait. My experience, which is just my experience, or as women will say, it's my lived experience. Finger basically deserves a 1x or maybe 1.5x. And here it is. Here it is. I'd never seen this before. The company's price to sales ratio stands at 2.9x. In other words, price to revenue, running ahead of both peer average of 1.2x and the global wireless telecom industry's 1.5x. Signaling valuation caution among investors as sustained losses continue to weigh on sentiment. Look, I don't know. I don't know if this is an article posted by the shorts, but it actually is the situation at Finger Motion right now. It can change. It says, this is 2 months ago, while the prevailing market view often frames small cap tech firms as high upside turnaround plays, that's just a not for nothing sentence. The reality here is challenging. Ongoing losses directly undercut hopes for near-term profitability or leverage to growth trends. Okay. Investors seeking proof of margin turnaround have little evidence to point to, as filings provide no sign of cost discipline or earnings recovery. It's true, but I just think those are useless sentences to me. At a price to sales multiple of essentially 3x, more than double the peer group. I do agree with that. The prevailing market suggests sticky valuation multiples for companies promising growth. But here, the combination of premium valuation and sustained losses pose difficult questions. Well, can't deny that. When a company with little evidence of revenue or margin expansion still trades above that's I hate to say I agree with this, but the contrast can make the stock price vulnerable should sentiment shift from future potential to today's financial health. Anyway, that was 2 months ago. Let's see what they're saying now. I'm interested to see if they say anything about the C2 contract. So in Singapore, January 15th, 2026, that's a good place to be located. A mobile services data and technology company is pleased to report its financial results for the third quarter of fiscal 2026. For the period ended November 30, 2025. The quarterly revenue was $5.8 million. Ooh, a 32% decrease year over year. Telecommunications product and services business was $5.76 million, down 32% year over year. The Daji platform generated 4,354 compared to 30,000. It's not even worth entering that into a press release. Okay, here we go. Command and Communications segment contributed 31,000 in revenue compared to 138. Well, I guess there's still hope that in December, January timeframe, maybe that money they raised is going to translate into big revenue, but I would say that's pretty disappointing. Big Data generated $126 in revenue. Cost of revenue decreased, that's good, to $5.53 million. So they had a gross profit of $263,000, but that was a decrease of 41% year over year. Operating expenses were $1.96 million. They're down from $2 million year over year. Net loss attributable to shareholders was $1.67 million, which is a slight increase from $1.66 million last year, the quarter a year ago. Reported basic and diluted loss per share of 3 cents compared to 3 cents before. That's not any real change. On November 30, 25, Finger Motion had, see, here's the thing. They have $24,000 in cash. Working capital surplus of $7 million. Total assets are $60 million. Current liabilities $43 million. 61 million shares outstanding. Finger Motion's Q3 performance reflects a transition toward more diversified business model. The telecommunications product and services segment remains the company's foundation, but capital constraints during the quarter reduced our ability to fund the business at historical levels. In other words, just that rolling of money in the top-up business. as we moved resources in favor, this is good news, I think, of our command and communications segment. Obviously, something good is happening there, I guess. The Daji platform revenue also decreased because of lack of promotional activity. This quarter reflects a disciplined approach to capital management as we pivot toward our highest growth opportunities. We are energized by the momentum in our command and communication platform and our recent moves towards strategic acquisitions. By building a leaner, more diversified, those two things don't go together. More diversified company, we are ready to scale the innovations we have incubated. Our focus is clear, driving our shareholders crazy. No, driving higher revenues and stronger margins through operational efficiency. I don't know. I guess that's a clear focus, but I'd rather hear how than a bumper sticker. We are optimistic about the future and remain fully committed to delivering enhanced value to our shareholders. Well, I like that he likes command and control. I do like that. Maybe there'll be a surprise this coming quarter. I don't know what else to say. All right, let me see your comments. Mad Greek. Mad Greek, I might be confusing you with Pete the Greek. I got to figure that out. I wish I could see your name. But that's great. You added 19,930 shares. Wow, 170,076. That's a big number. Congratulations, Roadhouse. Thank you, Mr. Ward, and everyone else. That's very impressive. Congratulations. That's, in my judgment, that's how to take advantage of this, otherwise painful lull. But I think it's setting up the possibility of tremendous rewards. And I think soon. But you'd be correct to point out that I've been incorrect in timing. I feel really badly for Novak Djokovic. He's older now, and it still seems like the draws are always rigged against him. Because he's got to play probably Hurkacz, and then he's got to go through Sinner to get to Alcaraz. He can beat Alcaraz. I don't know that he can beat Sinner. We'll see what happens. Then he's got a problem with his neck. What's his favorite hotel in the world? What is the name of the hotel? Can we get to the point? Oh, it's in Amman. Oh, it's a hotel group. It is Amman. In Montenegro. Thailand's Amman Puri as his favorite hotel in the world today. I used to stay at the Dusit, a Thai hotel in Dubai. All right, let's move on. That's great, Mad Greek. 170,000 is going to be really meaningful. Neil Gondek, Bill and RT Investors. Big volume on CSE today, with 35 cents being taken out. In other words, they're taking the ask by Numerage Brokerage. Let's look it up. This could be the turn. This could be the turn. $0.35, 488,000. That's high, but it was high the other day too. But that's what you need. You need increased volume, and frankly, you need the stock. You need the stock to break through this upper line, and it may be doing it. This was a week ago, so I got to do it again. But it's drifted downward. But if it just goes sideways, it breaks that line, and it looks like that might be what's happening. And then I think it snaps back like a rubber band man, or it has that potential. Let me look at the chart let me look on stock charts. Problem is, I'm not sure. There it is. Yeah, it still looks like crap on the chart. Not crap, but not great. It is going sideways a little bit, but it's, I wouldn't say, let me look at the MACD. Well, the MACD looks all right. I don't know. It's not breaking out to the upside quite yet, but it could happen at any time. If I take away that pattern, it does look like it's bottom. It has a little bit of a bottoming formation. I suppose it's not really a double bottom yet. But the good thing is the bottom of the page is right there. It can't go much lower. All right, let me look at the American one. Well, let me look at that on bar charts. Okay, there it is. And then I want the full chart. Guess it will depend on how I draw the line, but Neil, I'd say that it's the start of something good, but it hasn't broken out yet. And it does look like it's at a bottom. So it could be the turning point if there's follow through. What's the volume? It doesn't have it on this chart. The Rockies signed Willie Castro. Guardians acquired Franklin Gomez from the Mets. The Reds signed Pierce Johnson. That's great, Neil. That's a great observation, in my opinion. Ward Richardson, William Python code, most notably in data science, AI, web development, and automation. Oh, so I should know what it is. Yeah, all right. Ward Richardson, Mad Greek. Sleepy Beaches. Why was my posts deleted? I don't know. I only saw one, and there it is. So I don't think it got deleted. But if you had more than that, then yeah, maybe it did. I didn't see it. I didn't see it. Take the call. We'll still be here. No. I'll wait till after. I'd rather just go in face to face. I'd rather not go in at all, but you can't do that. All right, what else do I want to talk about? Let me see what's in my files. I don't know if I have much. We already went over that. No, I don't really have anything lined up. I didn't do any work this morning to get ready with anything. Let me think what else. I did listen to a couple of interesting, I don't know if it's worth showing you, something not very long. But the problem is you got to find it, and I didn't do that work this morning, so I may not be able to find it quickly. Let me look up here. The name's Bond. James Bond. Well, maybe I won't be able to show it to you. I'll save it for tomorrow, but I may not. I may not. All right, let me give it one more shot down here. It should be pretty recognizable. So if I get close, it should be pretty easy to see. All right here. Yeah, I thought this was interesting because I don't know if many of you know what RAG is or agentic AI.
I think it's fair to say that some of the most used AI buzzwords in recent times have been, well, one of them is certainly agentic AI and,
well, let me guess another one, right? Probably RAG.
Yeah, retrieval augmented generation. And with those buzzwords has come plenty of hype and preconceived notions.
Preconceived notions like how the primary use case for agentic AI today is coding.
Exactly, or that RAG is always the best way to incorporate specific up-to-date information into a model's context window.
Wait, so are we saying that these things are not the case?
Oh, Cedric, you know, this is where we wheel out the consultant's default answer, right?
Right, I guess I do. Is RAG always the best option? Well,
here it comes.
It depends.
It depends. There you go. You know, I spent 7 years as a technical consultant, and no matter what the question, a good old "it depends," that always seems to work.
Well, I have an idea. How about we explain what it depends on?
Right, so let's start off by explaining what these terms, agentic AI and RAG, really mean, and then you can get your practitioner viewpoint out where these buzzy technologies are actually going to be put into action. Now, AI, multi-agent workflows, they perceive their environment, they make decisions, and they execute actions towards achieving a goal. And all of this happens with minimal human intervention. Now, architecturally, these components, they kind of form a loop. So the first thing on the loop might be to perceive. And once they've perceived their environment, they can consult memory, they can reason, they can act along a particular path, and then they can go through the final stage, which is to observe what happened, and kind of round and round we go in a loop. And the key here is that each agent operates at the application level. They're making decisions, they're using tools, and they can communicate with each other.
Now, Martin, that's great, but if I had to pick the most common use case for agentic AI, I think it has to be coding agents, right?
Yeah, you mean like code assistants and co-pilots?
Precisely. And these are examples of agents that can help plan and architect new ideas. They can help write code straight to our repository and even help review the code that we've generated with minimal human guidance and by using LLMs that have larger context windows with reasoning capabilities.
This kind of looks like a mini developer team, like where you have maybe an architect agent that kind of plans out the feature, and then we've got the implementer that's going to come along and actually write the code, and then we've got the reviewer that checks out that code and then maybe sends some feedback in a loop like this.
Exactly. And this agentic pattern still needs human intervention, but our job is to be more of a conductor of an orchestra, right, than play a single instrument. Now, let's also think about another use case for agentic AI. Think about enterprises with the need to handle support tickets or HR requests, or, for example, customers who have some particular query where specialized agents can autonomously filter and query this to the right agent that's able to then use tool calling in order to use services or an API using some type of protocol like model context protocol, which standardizes the interaction between our LLMs and the tools that we use every day. Cool. So instead of using a chat window with an LLM to kick off an action, agents can be responsive in their own environment.
Exactly, but there is a challenge, right? Because without reliable access to external information, these agents, they can quickly hallucinate, or they can make misinformed decisions. And one way we can limit those misinformed decisions is with retrieval augmented generation, or RAG.
Right, and RAG is essentially a two-phase system because you've got an offline phase where you ingest and index your knowledge, and an online phase where you retrieve and generate on demand.
And the offline part, it's pretty straightforward. So we start off with let's start it over here. We're going to start with some documents. So these are your documents. They could be Word files, they could be PDFs, whatever. And we're going to break them into chunks and create vector embeddings for each chunk using something called an embedding model. Now, these embeddings, they get stored into a special type of database called a vector database. So now you have a searchable index of your knowledge. And when a query hits the system, so we've got perhaps here a prompt from the user, that's where the online phase kicks in. So the prompt goes to a RAG retriever, and that takes the user question and it turns it into vector embeddings using the same embedding model, and then it performs a similarity search in your vector database. Now, that's going to return back to you the top K most relevant document chunks, perhaps 3 to 5 passages that are most likely to contain the answer, and that is what is going to be received by the large language model at the end of this.
Wow, Martin, and this is really powerful, but when we start to scale things up with more data, right, from our organization, or perhaps allow more users to start using this RAG application, this is where it gets really tricky. Because the more documents or tokens that our large language model is going to retrieve, well, the harder it is for the LLM to recall that information, in addition to increased cost for our AI bill and wait times. And if we actually plot this out roughly, when we talk about accuracy and the amount of tokens retrieved by our RAG application, well, the more we add sometimes can have a marginal increase in performance or accuracy, but afterwards can result in degraded performance because of noise or redundancy. So maybe not everything should be dumped into the context of an LLM with RAG. But going back to Martin's point about the 2 phases of RAG, let's start to talk about ingestion. Because we need to be really intentional about our data curation, using perhaps open source tools like Dockling that can help us do document conversion to get it ready for our RAG application. That means starting from, for example, PDF types to machine readable and LLM readable types like Markdown with their associated metadata. And this means not just the text from our PDFs and documents or spreadsheets, but also tables, graphs, images, pages that are truncated, and much, much more. So here we can enrich your data before we write it to that vector database or a similar storage. But after ingestion, the next step is retrieval, or also known as context engineering. So context engineering, as the name implies, allows us to form our context for the LLM for RAG applications into a compressed and prioritized result. So this starts with hybrid recall from databases, right? So if the user is asking, hey, what is agentic AI? What we're going to do is use both the semantic meaning of our question, but also do keyword search, specifically in this example for agentic AI. Now, when we do the recall to get that information from our database, what we're also going to do when we get those top K chunks, as Martin mentioned, is re-rank them for relevance, right? To prioritize them for our LLM. When we get this back, well, we can also do combination of chunks. So if these 2 chunks are related, well, we'll put them together and piece this. So at the end of the day, when we provide the context and the question for our LLM, we have one single coherent source of truth. This results in higher accuracy, faster inference, and cheaper AI cost.
Now that sounds great. And speaking of costs, I hear that local models can power RAG and agentic AI. Is that the case?
Yes, the rumors are true, because instead of paying for an LLM, lots of developers have already been using open source models, using open source tools like VLLM or Llama C++. And this allows us to maintain the same API as a proprietary model, but have the added benefit of data sovereignty, so keeping everything on premise, and tweaking our model runtime for KV cache in order to have big improvements that could speed up our RAG or agentic AI applications.
Yeah, so that is AI agents with the help of RAG. A winning combination, always, right?
Well, maybe not always, but, of course.
It depends.
It depends.
All right, we got you. I'm sure that clarified everything.
What will be the most important trends in it?
I'm going to not put you through any more of that today anyway. But I'm glad somebody else understands it all. Railtown is up a little bit at 25.26. The same stock, CJYL, is under 14 cents. MGRX is 70 cents, a little higher. Next strip is under $3 at 2.90. Finger is $1.20. And Railtown's volume is very low, I think, 81,000 in the US. So going back to, I think it was, let me just check who it was. Neil, I think you're right. It's interesting that there's high volume in Canada and very low volume in the United States. On the other hand, lots of times I get two different numbers of volume switching back and forth. And maybe the volume in the United States is higher than 81,000. But it may be the computers are backing off just to let the market find a new level. Who knows? Or they're getting ready to turn it red by the end of the day. The Twitter X link doesn't work on the bottom of the new. Let me just see if there's any. Yeah, I went to the website yesterday. He says it's new. They just launched it. So I noticed it didn't have a lot of depth to it and I showed it to you guys. It didn't have more than just the description of those three. But he said, like, if you go to the blog is, it's the same as it was. So they haven't really updated that. And then what's your point? You go to the bottom of the website, it doesn't work. What is it? The Twitter X link. They don't have a Twitter X link. Maybe under the contact us. Oh, I see the very bottom here. The Twitter, I'll hit Twitter. Worked for me, but it says Railtown AI, something went wrong, try again. It just looks like their Twitter page hasn't been established yet. They just started, he just said they just went live yesterday. So I'll give him some slack. If you want to get more information, you can go to Conductor. Let me just remember how they spelled Conductor. Yeah, Conductor without an E or an O. It's conductr.ai. You can go there and they've got a lot of data there. It's pretty much for techies. It's not for investors so much. But you can go to conductor.ai and it's up and running. You can also go to Railtown. I can't remember if it's, yeah, there it is. Okay. So it's railtownaitechnologies.com. You can go to that. And that website, you can go, let me see if they have a Twitter on the bottom. I'll try it. They have an X, more likely to work. it also goes to saying something went wrong. But there's 20 alerts on this page. So I guess they're just rerouting everything to a new Twitter page. I'd give them a second on that. But all the other stuff works there. They've got the LinkedIn, they've got their emails. Let's see if they have a new presentation. I've been waiting for them to put out a new, it says presentation coming soon. There's Sleepy Beaches. There's since February 8th, whatever term you use, the company announced they were going in negotiation to acquire AIP Partnership Corp. And that's when the shorting and the collusion and the campaign to steal and destroy entire market caps begin. And unfortunately, since February 8th, we're past January 8th now. The company really hasn't been allowed to do a full promotional investor campaign. They've started. They talked to Tony, the AME GMC guy on Twitter. They spoke to me, which, I'm no big shot, so they're starting, but we're still waiting on whatever news is necessary to allow the knowledgeable buyers in Canada to start buying. And it hasn't happened yet. Yesterday was the first breakthrough. And I guess the Twitter page isn't ready yet, but neither is the presentations page on Railtown AI Technologies. It's been saying presentation coming soon for a long time, but whatever the word is, I call it quiet period, but I was corrected. Maybe it's blackout. Maybe it's pain in the ass period, but it's still going on. And so we got to have, I don't think it's a reflection, as you say it, is that acceptable for a tech company? I think all tech companies at various points in their evolution are not, their websites or their investor outreach is not as good as it becomes. So you're just at a point where they're getting ready and they're just not there yet. So I don't think a Twitter page that's looks to me to just recently have been established and doesn't have much on it is any reflection on a technology company. But thanks for trying to create uncertainty and doubt. Ward Richardson, William, Python coding means easy to read code. It or IT? It is used in 58% of software development. So it's easy to read. I don't read code, so I couldn't tell the difference between easy to read code and hard to read code. But that's good to know. Sleepy Beaches, it's all connected to a GitHub account on the back end. Look up the MIT section. It's all free source, open source, nothing proprietary about it. I don't know what you're talking about, but if you're talking about a website, why would the website be proprietary? Railtown does have, if you're in the website, you might take some time to look it up. I'm not sure you're going to take the time. But let me see if I can do it for you. You'll notice on their website that they put out their partners. So one is Mila, one's Amy, but then there's Microsoft partners. There's the Founders Hub at Microsoft. And then there's the co-sell ready partnership. And in there is Microsoft owns GitHub. And then you've got NVIDIA, you got AMD. And this was obviously put up before TELUS. And they have the Uniserve here. Uniserve is another smaller proof of concept. Uniserve has 2,000 or 3,000 small enterprise customers, small, medium size, where they provide SaaS services, but they need to keep up with the AI transition. So they're going to use Railtown on as their interface to their, I don't know, I guess they license the data centers. It's much smaller than the TELUS deal, but it will prove the utility, we hope, I assume it will, of the Railtown transaction. But I'm not sure what your point is. If you're a programmer, go to conductor.ai, conductor.ai, and why don't you see what they have there? This is what comes up. Well, conductor. And then there's a prompt. But this is Agent Management Suite, built-in first-class agent observability that drives productionizing reliable and traceable AI agents. Application Productivity Suite empowers development teams to accelerate productivity through automated error triaging, root cause agents intelligence, and team-wide visibility. And then they have this extensibility. I don't know what it all means, frankly. But that's a website designed for guys like you. Go use it, conductor.ai. I don't know what else to tell you. I wouldn't, a guy that comes on here named Sleepy Beaches is going to tell me there's nothing proprietary about Railtown. It's not true. It's just not true. I love that you spent a quick 5 minutes of due diligence. You should join the Tiger. Let me see if there's something here I can describe. I didn't put a date here when I had this conversation. No, I did. Monday, December 22nd. That's when I spoke with Corey. Monday, December 22nd. And he said, look, I want to teach you the value of your IP, your intellectual property. He's been building software since the 80s. Started writing code when the personal computer started. He's been heavily invested through all the iterations, every transition. And they talked about they worked in, anyway, he went on a bit on all of it. It gets boring. 5 M&A exits. So they have the deal experience, but they also build deep IP. He said they built deep IP before they started investing money in Railtown. I mean, if you believe it, I do. There are 4 co-founders building IP to large scale. They can go from 100 users to 1 million users with no additional costs, and they can go to 10 million users and keep going. AI is coming much more quickly than everyone expects. It's been around for a long time, but AI for everyone is now much closer. They spent, Marwan and his team, Corey and his team, they spent 6 months writing white papers. They filed with a patent firm who they gave me the name of for IP. And then I didn't remember this. They signed a non-disclosure agreement with Microsoft. And they still have that strong relationship with Microsoft. I'm not going to give details, but it's clear that Microsoft helped from the jump with Railtown. I mean, he said, this is how I heard what he said. Everything, every app we've ever used, everything we know has been built with SDKs. All of that has to be replaced with ADKs. Every software app ever built now has to be replaced with agentic software. Has to be replaced with AI apps, agentic functionality. And it's already happening. It's not a question of when, it is happening. I did ask him, can we get blown out of the water by Sequoia raising a bunch of money and funding LangChain? He said it's impossible, simply because the market's so big. Everything is happening at lightning speed. There's over 30 different software languages, and they're all gigantic. It's the biggest space on the planet. Software runs everything. He said it was hard to raise money before ChatGPT came out. That was the world's, I guess, wake-up call. And so this time, unlike the time that they were trying to create Dropbox before Dropbox existed, he said this time we've gotten the timing right. It's the biggest industry on the planet. And they're going to have to, this transformation shift is to move to AI running all software. It's a pretty big deal. ADKs, agent development kits, are called frameworks. In order to interact with large language models, we do not care what vertical you are. We're like Switzerland. We're neutral. Rail Engine, which is Ward's favorite thing and mine, took over 2 years, 2.5 years to build. It was a heavy lift. It provides real-time response. So you can process information in microseconds and handle multiple inputs and make a decision. Rail tracks is all historical data or stored data, and it's a fixed set of data. And then conductor, another really heavy lift. This is your autonomy. Any agent or autonomous activity, I guess, needs to be observed. And conductor can manage all the agents you've built. And the biggest thing is they can keep, as he calls it, your electricity bill down. Because of conductor, you can keep your bill from the hyperscaler down. He said LangChain, he wasn't trying to be negative, but LangChain has 180K and no rail engine, which is no robotics yet. I'm sure they'll come up with it. And they have one observation tool that's not very good. That's what he said. But I'm sure they're going to improve. One of the motivating things that's going to benefit us is the United States Cloud Act, which basically means if you use a US-based hyperscaler, Donald Trump can get access to everything. So they don't want that. And that's why you have this great effort for sovereign integrity. And Railtown benefits from it. I'm not going to go into this other part. I think I don't think it's material, but I don't want to be the one that puts out some of this specificity. At least that's how it seems to me. But he hasn't told me anything secret. He talked about Uniserved. He basically pointed out that the AIP acquisition, once they move, they're already spending over 100 million on hyperscalers, which he didn't want to tell anybody. But I said, Dr. Tom Core already put it out in an interview. He said, oh yeah, you're right. So he called it electricity costs. That's what he calls it. He said, once they move that over, he didn't give me the percentage, but he said in 6 months, a year, you pay for the whole transaction. And once that revenue's over at TELUS, it continues in perpetuity. He said we're embedded in all Microsoft products, like GitHub and DevOps. I mean, the one negative for me is he made it pretty clear that if Microsoft were to offer a low acquisition price, he'd put it to shareholders. So I hope that he doesn't do anything exclusive so that when he puts it, they're still accepting alternative bids, So I'm not surprised it's connected to a bit. I'm done. Best of luck to you. Well, great. I mean, Sleepy Beaches, thanks for your quick due diligence. You must know what you're talking about. All right, Railtown is 2521. 24.9 to 25.68, 91,000 shares. ZJYL down 2 cents. MGRX down 2 cents. Next Trip down 32 cents. It's under $3. 292.5. Fingers up. It's up almost 6 cents. Railtown is up slightly. We'll see how it closes. All right, I'm just going to go 6 more minutes. I'm glad I spent time on Sleepy Beach's questions when he just left as well. Right. Netanyahu halts Trump from bombing Iran. Yeah, that's believable. I'm sure that's believable. President Trump signs law to bring whole milk back to schools. That sounds good. Anyway, it's very boring. I'm sorry. Let's just make it 4 more minutes and then I'll let you guys go. Railtown is 24.9, 12,000 by 39.5, 24.9, 25.38. Ask 91,970 shares volume. Oh, Sleepy Beach is here listening. Okay. I feel like I didn't waste my time then. Thank you. E. Belanger added 9,700 today. Deal of the month price. Unbelievable. You guys, some of you guys are going to be, you're going to be AI moguls. Added 9,700. Wow. That's a lot. That's amazing. It really is. Imagine that much going to $10 or $5 or $20 or $25. 3 minutes to go. The price hasn't changed. It might be a sign of a turn. That same 1,000 shares and 2,000 shares from 11 a.m. are still sitting there. So there hasn't been much action. Last trade, 236 shares at 25.32, and then 100 shares just behind that at 25.21, and that's it for the afternoon, according to my service now. Let's go back to Canada and see what's happening up there. Um, 537,000 shares. So it makes you wonder, why aren't they hedging those trades down here? Why isn't there arbitrage? I think it wasn't Eric. It was darn it. Somebody brought it up. Neil. It was Neil. I mean, that 537,000 shares in Canada and relatively low volume in the United States, it might be telling us something. The bid is TD Securities. The ask is anonymous, of course it is. Underneath TD Securities is RBC Capital Markets. And RBC Capital Markets again, and again, and then TD Securities. And then Aviso Financial has a bid of 10,000 at 34 cents. WD Latimer and Co. Has a bid at 34 cents. National Bank Financial trying to buy 10,000 at 34. Merrill Lynch Canada in there for a big 2,000 shares. And that's all I can tell you. It's last trade 25.32. I think that might be the close. So let's go see what Finger did, because then I can come back and get the closing price on Railtown. It doesn't automatically show. Finger closed at $1.22, up 6 cents. 247,000 shares. So now I can go back to Railtown, see their closing price. It closed at 25.32, up 0.0042, 92,000 shares. So there must have been a trade. Not really. 236 shares at 25.32 was the last trade. So we're at 401. ZJYL 1465. And I think that's pretty much Eric's right, or $3,000 like Constellation Software. I think, I actually think IBM paid $13 billion for Confluent. I can see, it's totally speculation at this point. But if there's a bidding war and if it doesn't start until Railtown's revenue has ramped to, let's say the bidding war starts in May or June, not like I think right away. Let's say it's June or July, and let's say Railtown's revenue has ramped to a projectable 150 to 200 million a year in annual recurring revenues, and then the growth rate is projected to go higher. I could see a bidding war where IBM's purchase of Confluent at 13 billion could be where this settles out. There's other comparables out there too, but obviously that's a huge optimistic projection. But at 13 billion with 215 million shares outstanding, fully diluted roughly, that's $60 a share, E. Belanger. I could see a world where that happens. And then I could also see if it all gets delayed, why wouldn't Microsoft offer, its market cap, Microsoft's current market cap, I can't spell. Stock's been under pressure. According to Yahoo, market cap is 3.39 trillion. I can see Microsoft saying, we'll issue 1% of our float, 1%. So we'll pay 33.9. Let's just call it 34 billion in stock. 34 billion. Because they could buy Railtown if it proves its concept at TELUS. Number one, Microsoft could, if they get in a bidding war, they could buy Railtown to make sure they maintain their dominance in Canada, but they could also apply Railtown if it's such a product. We don't know this yet, but if it's such a product, they could apply Railtown in its bundled services at all of its data centers, 400 data centers worldwide. They could price in revenue attributable to Railtown that makes a $34 billion deal be worth $500 billion. Anyway, at 34 billion, it's 1% of their stock. It's not a big deal to them. So at 34 billion divided by 215 million, that's $158 a share. Now these are pie in the sky numbers at this point, but it's happened before. It's happened with other acquisitions. So is Railtown in that league? Well, we'll find out. The risk, though, is I think management's attitude. Now I'm extrapolating. They did not tell me this, but I think management's attitude is if Microsoft bought us at $5, we'll let you get the extra $150 a share in your ownership of Microsoft. Well, I have a hard time believing Microsoft is going to do more than double in its lifetime from here, but I could be. I've been wrong. I've been wrong on Microsoft for 35 years. I'd much rather have Microsoft buy us for 30 or 40 billion than have the company sell at 300, 400 million and expect us to get the upside in our ownership of Microsoft. But that's the problem. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what the thinking will be. It's human beings, it's trading. But I can tell you, Corey and Marwan, and now I would guess all four of those guys, but probably, I don't know. We don't know the ownership. But those guys, Dr. Tom Core, Mike Norbrega, the IBM guy, and John Ruffalo, they're big holders in Railtown stock now. So we're going to find out, I think, that their interests are aligned with ours. And they'll make the best decision for their pocketbooks, and it'll be the right one for ours. But I do caution. I think after 6 years of work, 6.5 years of work, and the stock now is 35 cents Canadian. If he got an offer to sell at $3.50 or $6 Canadian, there's a chance he'll put it out for shareholder vote. I hope not. I hope there's a bidding war, but you gotta offset what I think are realistic high numbers if the growth is there based on revenues and based on trying to block the competitors from getting Railtown. But you have to offset it with a realistic understanding that there's human beings there who are gonna, they understand software, and their reaction might be, well, if Microsoft wants to buy us for $500 million, let's put it to shareholders. So you just got to realize there's that chance. I personally think they're not going to allow Microsoft to say, well, we want to make this offer, but you can't talk to anybody else while you get the shareholder vote. I don't think they'll do that. So I do think there'll be a bidding competition. And I think the minimum that bidding will go to is whatever Lang chain has been valued at that time, which I would guess would be in the 2 to 3 billion range at a minimum. So if you assume the price is 2.15 billion, that's $10 a share. I kind of think that's going to be the minimum a buyout will start at. But I don't know. We just got to face the facts. Justin Babish, Ham mentioned you with a kind word during his conference call. He said I'm a block of baloney when he went off about the shorts at the end of his call. Mentioned MMTLP and Bugsy and Vandersteel freezing outside. William too. Yeah, I was freezing. It was cold. I did wear extra layer around my chest, but my feet and knees got very cold. I didn't wear long underwear. But man, a lot of people were out there freezing. They had flown in from everywhere. They did a great job telling their stories. Number 2 pencil, he lost his wife. And it's still, he talked to me by myself. And then when he went up there, it is very hard for him to talk without crying. And one of them, it might have been he, but it might have been that guy, Chris, just pointed out it's not the money. But of course it's the money. But he said it's not the money, it's the time. You lose your time with your loved one. If he had had the money, he's convinced he could have saved his wife or prolonged her life. But the shorts believe that the shorts deserve this steal because I'm telling you, over a 20-year, 25-year period, they have incrementally moved the boundary on the regulations. They've dazzled the regulators with their BS. They've bribed regulators, maybe not directly, but with sugar plums of jobs at SAC or Goldman or at the law firms. They've moved the regulations outward, but they've also created case law that moves it outward. They got Bill Clinton, the doofus. Well, I'm only going to say this to you once. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. Of course, I don't consider a blowjob a sexual relation. We've got to stop doing it. The great I suppose that there's no fact on this world, this planet, that can't be debated into opinion. I suppose that's true. But there's got to be some facts that we can agree are facts rather than having everything blended in some feel-good way. And anyway. These criminals, and I do think they're criminals, they have a position in a river of money, trillions of dollars. And it's so big, they own Congress, they own the lobbyists, they own the regulators, they own the narrative. And you know, when I say things like, well, this guy works for the shorts, well, he's saying that I don't work for the shorts. I've never shorted a stock. Well, that may be technically true. But you've got to start recognizing the risks out there that people walking the walk, squawking the squawk, and saying the same thing as the shorts, they work for them. Now, you could say, well, I don't work for them. Well, you're parroting the same message, so you might as well. But it doesn't, the distinction doesn't matter. The only way you all are going to get, and myself, are going to get away from this hell is to try to make our money back with a profit, which I think is Railtown. I used to think it was silver, and I still love silver. And I started talking to you about silver. And then I had the impression, on belief, and I thought information, that Railtown was going to really speed up mid last year. It didn't. But it's my assessment, as painful as that is, that waiting. It's not the only thing I've waited for in the last 2 years, year and a half. I mean, people judge Corey and this AIP, Dr. Tom Core, but it's Corey's fault. But then they don't look in their own lives at things that take forever. I mean, in my life, I'm trying to get this bloody legend removed off of shares. I've been doing it for 3 years. You know, we all have delays in our lives. And it's easy to point. I wouldn't put it past the criminals to have some input into the various law firms up in Canada and then delay everything. I know the criminals have inroads at Canaccord Genuity. Doesn't mean everybody at Canaccord. I'm telling you, this crime isn't that many people. I mean, if you expand it to those who look the other way, all right, it's probably a lot of people. But the people that have been pushing this agenda, it's not that many. I'd be surprised if it's over 50 people. But I'd have a hard time believing it's over 100 throughout Wall Street. But it could be. Maybe it's not over 500. Who knows what the number is? But it's not a big number. And it's a very powerful narrative. Well, people shouldn't be speculating in the over-the-counter market anyway. Well, I don't even think it's a speculation. If you're in the over-the-counter market, they're going to try to crush the market cap if your company needs money. It's just a fact. But then you don't have any place to go. They consolidated all the exchanges. They consolidated everything. But anyway, let's not go off on that rant. Yeah, I did freeze a bit, but everybody did. I was honored to be there. There's such good people, such good people. And it gave me hope that they can get something done. I think the best way to make your money back, if you can stand it, is to place a bet or an investment, I think is more accurate, on Railtown. But you gotta love the hard work. And the best one there, in my opinion, out of all of them is Busy Brands. But he was on the phone to Junk Savvy. He didn't put her on with me. She's right up there. And then a new entrant is Ann Vandersteel. And I thought she did it. She understood it. Of course, when she talked about silver, I was like, wow, she knows silver. Pretty powerful. This is the same thing that's been going on in silver a long time. All right, Giuseppe. Have a nice evening. Good luck with the doctor. But thank you. I am going to the doctor. I'm gonna be sick to my stomach. Oh, all right. Okay, I chose the late. They gave me two choices. I chose the later one, so I have to go at 1:30. So I'm probably going to leave here at noon. I'll be nauseous for. Oh God. Yeah, I may not come on tomorrow. Anyway, let's not think about it now. Justin Babish, all fighting for what is right. I agree with that. And I respect everyone in the fight. And everybody, when you're an investor in this space, or you're, at one point, maybe you had money, you're independent. So it's a little bit, the old expression goes, it's a little bit like herding cats. So you have to learn to adjust to everybody's approach or personality, or they have different ideas. But what's amazing about it here, 3.5 years or 3.25 years later, everybody is still rowing the boat in the same direction. And it's very impressive. E. Belanger, Ruffalo and Nobrega are from Omers. This is my point, Eric Belanger, 73. God, you were born in 73? You graduated in 73? Or you are 73? Or I'm going to guess you graduated. No, I think you're younger than that. I'm going to guess that's when you were born. Wow, young man. Ruffalo and Nobrega are from Omers. I think Omers Ventures will take a position in RT soon. Okay, I agree with that 100%. Let's look up Omers Ventures. Let's ask, does Omers Ventures invest in Canadian AI technology companies public, I should have said public, under one smacker. Let's see what it says. Yes, I misspelled it. Omers, mofo. All right. Yes, Omers Ventures, the venture capital. Do you want to see it, everybody? This is from Google. Yes, Olmers Ventures, the venture capital arm of Olmers, actively invests in AI and technology companies, including Canadian ones, focusing on growth stage businesses, but their typical investment, it's very hard to read it backwards. Can I just read it my way? But their typical investments are in larger private rounds rather than small public stocks under $1. With examples like Touch Bistro, Wahhabi, D2L, they also back public exits in Rumble and Copperleaf. It's usually private, not microcap. All right, so let's ask. Is there a lower cutoff for Olmers Ventures investments in public companies slash micro caps? Of course, it's not going to answer it. Thinking. Oh, the same bloody thing. Olmers Ventures primarily focuses on private growth stage technology company and typically does not invest in microcap public stocks. All right, I'm going to take an exception here. The founder of AIP Network Partners, Mike Norbrega, John Ruffalo, Dr. Tom Core, they all know Olmers intimately. So I don't agree that they wouldn't do it here. So a formal lower cutoff for such investments is not publicly defined for their venture arm. Their investments are usually made in private rounds, Series A to C, with initial check sizes between 5 million and 25 million USD. So I would argue that Railtown currently is priced at a seed valuation or a Series A valuation. You could argue that it's higher, but the broader organization does have, Olmers does have a public equities program, but it operates separately from the venture capital arm. They're saying that under $1, they probably wouldn't invest. I don't agree, but all right, let's just take those numbers. Eric, let's take it's 5 million to 25 million US. Let's take 5 million US. 5 million US divided by, what did you pay, 35 cents Canadian? Let's say 50 cents Canadian. That's 10 million shares. That's the low end of their commitment. If they decided to buy 5% of Railtown, they'd be buying 10 to 12 million shares. That's going to have a huge, if it happens, I happen to agree with you. that's going to have a huge stabilizing effect on the price of the stock. And I think the limit to their buying probably has to do with the fact that Mike Norbrega and John Ruffalo may have already talked to him, but those guys probably know what's going on at Tellus's data center and elsewhere that we don't know. And whatever that news is material, non-public information. And so I think Olmers has to wait till that disclosure is made. And once that happens, it may be we have to face the fact that there might be a lower cutoff, like they can't invest in stocks under $2. That may be. So they have to wait. Or it may be that they're going to need to build a file on it and have several meetings with the investment committee and have maybe a Zoom call with management, or maybe just put research reports in their file. So it may not be right away, but I tell you what, Eric, if they decided to buy 5 to 10% of the company, and they wouldn't care if they paid $2 instead of 50 cents, they're going to do it appropriately. They're not going to cheat. But whatever the cutoff might be, there might not be one. Maybe they get an exception. But to buy 5 to 10% of the company, it's going to change the whole look and feel of the price action. Justin Babish, does RT have to put offers that are low out for a vote, or can they say no? What worries me is a slightly different point of view, but they will put all offers out for a vote. They'll put them all out. I just hope they don't make it exclusive, so once that goes out, other bids can come in. But they'll put all offers out for a vote. But what worries me more, frankly, Justin, is I don't know their formation documents. I don't know their I don't know if it's a simple majority, 2/3, 3/4 to get something like that through. But what worries me is they pretty much control the vote. I mean, they are. The closely held stock in that company is probably at least 50, 60 million shares. And, you don't vote on a fully diluted basis. So you'd be voting on the roughly 190 million shares out. And I bet a lot more, I bet they get to 50% just on their own say so. So that's what would worry me more than whether they put it out for a vote. But hopefully, look, when I talked to Mr. Brandolini and I said, am I out of my gourd? I might have said it that way. Or am I insane? Am I out of my mind to suggest that Microsoft would buy this company for 40 or 50 billion? Something like that, I said. He didn't say no, but he didn't bite. He didn't bite at my optimism. And then he pointed out that in a context that may or may not be important, but if Microsoft came in at 400, 500 million, I think he'd put it out. So, but I don't think people would vote on it. And The key is, Justin, and he said it, people are going to have to pay for perceived revenue, the revenue growth. But if it starts early and the company isn't doing a lot of revenue, your number's going to be lower. But I think, Justin, you've got, to me, you've got an obvious initial competition between Microsoft and TELUS. I don't know about AMD or NVIDIA jumping in, but they could. But let me describe it to you for TELUS's standpoint. Imagine that TELUS is trying to become numero uno in the AI data center space in Canada, the go-to. And imagine that TELUS likes the Railtown product so much, they want to make the arrangement exclusive so that Railtown can't deal with Microsoft or Amazon or anybody else. And further, imagine that TELUS knows that Railtown works with Microsoft and that their biggest competition to their dream is Microsoft. So I think TELUS might make an offer. I don't think they can do much right now because I think their own financials are overstretched. But once there's revenue, which is essentially bankable, you can take that story to the bank. I think TELUS comes in to keep Railtown from Microsoft. Look at it from Microsoft's standpoint. Hey, Google has its own, and again, I'm not a genius software guy, but Google has its own orchestration frameworks, Google ADK. They have a soup to nut suite of offerings from the hyperscaler all the way up to the orchestration frameworks. Amazon has the hyperscaler. They don't really have large language models. I think Google does, one of those. They own one of them. And then Amazon has a deal apparently with LangChain, but it's not exclusive and it may not fulfill their needs. But Microsoft, at least when I took this conversation, took my notes, Microsoft doesn't have it. They're a hyperscaler, but they don't have that orchestration framework. So if Microsoft, and they've bought one, they bought a small one, and then I think they may even be talking to one now. But if Microsoft's experience with Railtown, if they start seeing results in their ecosystem, Microsoft will buy Railtown just to provide that soup to nuts and be able to compete with Google. That's my opinion. Nobody's told me that. Nobody has told me that. So just narrowing it down to those two companies in Canada who are going to duke it out, I think you could have a bidding war. Now, in TELUS's case, let's say, just pick a number. I know you're not going to want to believe me, but let's say that TELUS projects over the next decade that they can grow their data center, AI data center revenue to $5 billion annual recurring revenue over a 10-year time frame. Their forward 12 months will be $5 billion a year. They have one data center now. They're going to have four, and I don't know how to test that. I don't know how much revenue in Canada is going through AI data centers now. They're not doing it in Canada or in sovereign AI data centers, because Thales is the first and the only, as far as I know. That'll catch up. You know, there's too much competition to maintain that lead. But let's just say that premise is at the executive level, the decision maker, the board level at TELUS. Our revenue from our AI enabling data centers that we share with Railtown will grow to 5 billion a year. And then if you go further, these are all assumptions, of course, but if you go further and say, well, they're giving Railtown 20% of that, that means TELUS, and they're probably going to have to give their large language model people something too, but let's ignore that for now. That means TELUS is going to generate 5 billion in revenue, and they're going to take 4 billion. And then, like I say, there might be other costs. But Railtown's going to get 1 billion essentially net of cost, cost free. Why wouldn't TELUS buy them? They can go buy, if they believe that projection, they can go buy a future 1 billion a year in essentially 100% margin revenue that they know about by buying Railtown. And then that goes out. And what would they pay? What would you pay if you could get 100% revenue in a project you control, and you know the data of your customers, and you're going to buy a company that's earning 1 billion a year, 1 billion, and growing, 1 billion a year, 100% margin, and it's going to last for 20, 30 years in your estimates. What would you pay? I think you'd pay at least 7 years worth of that revenue, and you might pay as much as 15 years worth of that revenue. Depends on the cost of your financing, but if you do it with shares, there's no cost. And it all comes to your bottom line. So I think TELUS is an obvious buyer of Railtown. I think Microsoft is the buyer of Railtown, but you could have AMD, you could have NVIDIA, you could have Amazon, you could have something different like Oracle or Tesla. It just all depends on how powerful these Railtown tools are. And remember, while Railtown is running on its own, the revenue it generates is all cash flow. They can put that back into development of their technology. They can hire more engineers. They can go buy companies themselves, or they can pay it out. I just don't think Railtown's going to be, that's my opinion. I really caution. I have not heard it from anybody at the company, but I just don't see Railtown standing alone in 6 months. And if the one thing is, if Ward's correct, I think he's saying January 22nd. I'm picking February 12th, the year of the horse. Kick it off. But whatever, sometime in the next 2 or 3, 4 weeks. It could be longer. It could be March. Look, it can't be exactly, I don't know. But as soon as they start kind of trumpeting this brand new data center under the Canadian sovereign banner, the thing is that data center with NVIDIA and I guess HPE, and I'm going to guess Cohere, but it could be a Anthropic, it could be OpenAI, but I'm going to guess Cohere. And then with Railtown, the data center can scale like an orchestra. It can scale like the spread of a child's cold. It can scale without any interruption, the data center. And then I'm told Railtown's been built to rapidly scale without any extra investment of time or money. And it can go from 0 to unbelievable when asked. So if this data center gets turned on, I know it's on already, so I don't know what word to use, but if the razzmatazz starts, let's say February 12th, it could be March 12th, but let's say it starts February 12th, and TELUS puts out in their emails and in their mailing to their customers, and maybe, buys a banner at the national curling championships, people start switching. And they'll switch to this data center for sovereignty. That's the campaign in Canada. They'll do it for that reason. They'll do it because the electricity is green. They'll do it because the electricity is half the price, I think. And they'll do it because NVIDIA's chips are state of the art. And I think I showed you, I asked Perplexity, but I think the NVIDIA chips will always be upgraded to the newest. So people are going to move from US hyperscalers to this TELUS data center. There will be competition from, I'm sure, from Bell Canada and from Rogers Communications and from others. Meanwhile, Uniserv is going to be proving the concept on a much smaller scale. But I think there's a chance here that you're going to see revenues grow from 0 to 150 million in a matter of weeks. And I would say more than a month, but a matter of weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, I don't know, but a matter of weeks. And then I just don't see Railtown standing alone anymore. I think the offers to buy will be friendly at first, and then I think if they don't respond, they'll become hostile. Now, I do think there's a form of buyout now that gets around US regulatory concerns, which is called lease and hire. So you might get something like that where they try to hire Corey and Marwan and then lease the technology, and then the company remains and it collects all of the, using my terms, overrides from the data center. But I personally don't think that's going to happen. I don't think these guys are going to want to go work at TELUS or Microsoft. So I don't really think, I think it'll just be a straight exchange of shares for the company. But my point is, in my long description, I just don't see Railtown being its own company by September. And it could happen that it's not its own company by maybe March Madness is too soon, but maybe they get an offer by March Madness and there's a bidding war by, you know, April Fools or maybe by Easter. I think it could be very quick. But that relies on no blowups, that it does scale, and that it is first in class, which I believe, that it has been battle tested, which I believe, that it is best in class, which I believe, that it's first to market and best in class. And I think this story could get pretty exciting very quickly. On the other hand, maybe it drags out, but it's going to be rewarding either way, I think. Steve, still trying to buy a few more shares in my wife's and my Roth accounts, just waiting for the money to clear. Believe it or not, a check is faster than a wire transfer. What a scam. I don't believe wire transfer is instantaneous. They used to, when I was a big shot, wire transfers took forever, and you could sit, your client could wire the money in the morning and it might not show up till the next day, next afternoon. It was a scam back then. But now it's just like that. Justin Babish, terrible stock, MTEN. Let me see. Do I really want to look at Mountain? I guess I can. Let's look at it. Mingting. Oh my gosh, Justin. It's 3 cents. It's bloody 3 cents. 0.033. It was $26 this year. I was told billionaires are in it. Oh, it's real this time. Do you see, though? They just want to steal all that money. Doesn't matter the story, guys. And then it's so final. It's so final. What do you do if you were stupid, which I would consider myself, by the way? You bought in at $13 and you thought it was going to go to 26 and then maybe to 70, and then it keeps pulling back slowly. So you keep convincing yourself next week, 2 weeks, and then it's down at 4, and you say, "Oh, I can't go any lower." And it's too late. I'm just going to hold on. And now it's 3 cents. Yeah, how do you recover? You can't. You can't. That's a write-off. Unbelievable. I can't believe that, Justin. That's 3 cents a share? 3 cents? That was such a massive push that I forget the high that they projected. See, this is why I just want to get away from all of it, because everybody tries to understand what's going on. What are they doing? Oh, they're wrong. They're criminal. I just say, why even engage in it? They'll bring you down to their level and beat you with their experience. Just get the hell out. Stay away. Stay away. Let somebody else fight it. That's what I see Railtown as. So anyway, Justin, terrible stock, MTEN, 21 million shares outstanding. Volume today is 400. Oh, I didn't even see that. 460 million. 350 in pre-market. Price in the toilet. But what about settlement? Stupid cred. Exactly. The average 10-day volume in this is 120 million a day. Guys, they're making so much money. They're making so much money. 460 million shares traded today. What was the high? 4 cents. And right now it's 3.033. Just today's action, if they clipped it for half a penny on 300 million shares, that's a nice day at the office. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I don't own it. I think I bought it and sold it, but I was talking to people that owned it and I was really considering the story. But then in June, I just said I'm only focusing on Realtown. So I, obviously sidestepped losing money there. But if you lost money, Justin, I don't know how many shares you have. I'd almost sell it and buy Realtown, even if you put it in a different account or just put it on your notebook. Like if you have 100,000 shares here, get out at 33, so you have $3,300. God, unbelievable. But you book your loss so that when you have gains, there's value in that loss. And with $3,300, you can buy, 12,500 shares of Railtown, and 12.5 goes to, I don't know. When I did that search of when the Perplexity came up with the valuations, not me, and then they gave the percentage odds. If you risked that, each one of those 4 or 5 scenarios, they all seem to come out once you risked it in the range of $15 to $18 a share. So if you multiply 12,500 shares by 15, you'll get 187.5 from that. Obviously, that's a lot of projection. It's not a promise, and it's a lot of things have to happen. But I think $15 a share in Railtown is completely possible. It's just a question, will it happen quickly? Will it happen when the stock is called Railtown? Or will it happen inside of TELUS or inside of Constellation Software? Lewis Shotland, hi William, I was able to buy, wow, 12,000 shares under 25 cents? I want to get in this game. I want somebody to lend me 100,000. I want you guys to make your own money. Good for you, Lewis. Good for you. Looking good, Lewis. Feeling good, Billy Ray. That is amazing. Congratulations. That's an unbelievable buy. 12,000 at 0.247. The key is they don't take a toxic financing, and they're not going to. They don't need to. So I think we can rely on the good news at the company translating down to a known denominator, 250 million shares fully diluted. That's not going anywhere. And so that is the secret sauce here that gets us to pull out of this town. It's a town full of losers, and we're going to pull out and win. Yes, but Justin says, yes, but good job, Lewis. That's amazing. I'll put it in. Telus has 2 data centers. Microsoft has how many? I Googled it. To my memory, they have something like 430 data centers worldwide. But I think the distinction is how many AI data centers are there. I think all data centers eventually are going to be designed for the AI, and then you've got quantum computing coming. I mean, these chips can get out of date so quickly. AMD has a chip. Apparently Google has a chip they'll never let out of their ecosystem. So there's going to be competition, but I think NVIDIA is going to stay ahead. And there's room for competition. But I think Microsoft has over 400. Will they upgrade all of those data centers all at once? I'm not sure, but I tell you what, if this, Justin, I wish I had a genius mathematical brain, but if Microsoft paid 40 billion for Railtown and then bundled Railtown into their offerings, like I understand Railtown's bundled into GitHub now. It's not a big audience yet for Railtown, I guess. So maybe they're not bundled. Maybe it's the other way around. GitHub is bundled into Railtown. But imagine if Microsoft were to buy Railtown for 40 billion. I know that's out of this world. So, and there's 400 data centers. And then Microsoft bundled this tool set on top of every one of those data centers with all their customers. Isn't it at least conceivable that Microsoft could create, I'll go with a big number, huge annual revenue and create 4 trillion in value? I mean, maybe that's the whole company. Call it half a trillion in value, 400 billion in value, just by bundling the company they bought on top of all their data centers. I just think, and then some people say, well, that's self-dealing and all that. I don't know. The revenue's real. The revenue's coming from the customers. You just bundle Railtown into the suite that each of the developers is subscribing to. And that asset you paid 40 billion for is worth some multiple of the revenue you generate. Maybe it's worth half a trillion. Maybe it could be, if AI explodes, it could be worth trillions. And I'm that's what they did. That's what Google did buying YouTube, and it worked. Who bought Instagram? I don't know. Somebody bought Instagram, and it worked. And that's what they're going to do. That's how they're going to create. Somehow Microsoft has to get to 10 trillion. Marty Party, what about IBM buying Railtown? Their founder was head of IBM Canada. Yeah, I keep forgetting that guy's name, but that's a really good point. It's a really good point. IBM they didn't adapt to, in fact, I believe they either sold or it was essentially stolen. Some of the code or some of the technology for the PC went to Microsoft. So IBM stayed as that mainframe model too long, and then Microsoft and Apple and everybody had their lunch. But I think IBM is coming back, and now I'm trying to remember some of what I read, but IBM is in the game now in this AI and data center game. And you're right, IBM could buy them. You make a great point, particularly if IBM wants to leap ahead. I think you're right. IBM could buy them. I think AMD could buy them. When we watched Dr. Sue talk about her chip, here's the thing. I don't know how good Railtown really is. And it still has this veil of secrecy on everything. But if it comes out of the gate gangbusters, and it's the buzz of town. Yeah, you know, Apple could buy them, Nvidia could buy them, but AMD, they would want that extra piece. Each of these people want to create their own ecosystem. They're not, I personally don't think they're all going to be able to do it, but they're all going to try to do it long enough that I believe we will get a payday. Um, but when you listen to people talk about AI that are bullish, it's just going to keep growing. My skepticism comes, I don't think we have enough energy on the planet. And I hate that we're going to build more nuclear power plants. This planet can't survive what happened at Fukushima Daiichi. And they just had another series of earthquakes and yet another series of nuclear plants in Japan probably were destroyed, but there's no press anymore. There's no press anymore. Justin Babish, I know for a fact that Microsoft and Google try to outspend each other on talent and leadership because I have some limo customers that have been through this experience. I work in Seattle. Wow. One of the oil companies I raised money for a long time, and then suddenly he didn't need my efforts anymore. He ran into Microsoft investors in Seattle, and he used to go out and raise money. It was unbelievable. So I know how powerful Seattle is, Justin. So I guess you could confirm in a way that there's an arms race, and I believe that. I think there is an arms race. And I think they'll buy companies that don't work out, but they'll just consolidate them. Once they're on their balance sheet, then you just hand it over to the accountants, and losses can be blended with profits to save on taxes. Losses can be delayed. Um, Certain projects can be abandoned, and then the team can go into a new project. There's a lot they can do, accountants can do to disguise blunders. But I think there's an arms race, and they're going to bid against each other. Joe Marty, I think Microsoft is the front runner for sure, but maybe IBM leads to a. Yeah, look. I could be totally wrong. It could be IBM, and in a way, I'd rather own IBM stock than Microsoft. In a way. But I don't know. Depends on who's running it. Justin, for sure, IBM will at least know who RT is. That's a very good point, too. That's a very good point, too. Very good point. Maybe that's why they brought that guy on. Let me find his name. Let me find his name. We're American Airlines doing something in the air. Okay, so you have Michael Nobrega, former president and CEO of the Ontario Municipal Employees Retirement System. You have Dr. Tom Core, former president and CEO of Ontario Centers for Excellence. Patrick Horgan, I knew it was an Irish name. Patrick Horgan, Patrick Horgan, entire professional career at IBM. COO of IBM Canada. And he was in charge of AI. And then John Ruffalo, founder and managing partner of Mavericks Private Equity, founder of Omer's Ventures, ran it for 8 years. I like how you think, Justin. Justin, I didn't have more than $30 in M10. Just wanted it on my watch list. I think you can make your $30 back in real time. I think you can. All right, it's 5 o'clock. Let me just see if Kyle Tucker took a deal. No, but the Rockies got Willie Castro. So we'll leave it at that. I'm going to have to say goodnight. I may not, I don't know I'm not going to come on in the morning. So probably it's going to be fine. But if I get back at 3, I might go on at the end of the day. But just forgive me if I don't come back on tomorrow by the end of the day. I'll try to. Anyway, I wish everybody the best. Stay warm and peace.